This is the first in the series of demos for how to draw different parts of the project in Information and Communication module. The first sheet I'm going to show today is how to draw floor plans using the information from the project brief, as well as some of the information covered in the group homework and references provided in the module description. For drawing the floor plans, we're referring to this project layout that is outlined in the project brief. They give some general dimensions about how big the house should be and what is the layout of this house. Again, this is the two-story residential house, so bear in mind that this is just the ground floor. So what is left to sort of design to a very small extent is the first floor. So what your task is basically is to look into this plan and these dimensions and basically translate that into scale for the first sheet, that's 1 to 100. In terms of dimensions, these are approximate dimensions as guidelines that are given to you so you can sort of get the sense of how big some of the spaces and objects should be, but be free to tweak these to fit your needs, and then when you dimension your plan, actually represent the actual dimensions. Some of the things that are not spelled out here in terms of the size, for which you may need to go back and refer to, for example, Building Construction Handbook, are the wall dimensions, so the thickness of the exterior wall, the interior partitions. So note that these things are not drawn to scale in this sketch. Other things, specifically what we addressed in the lecture, is understanding the stairs. Stairs are the most difficult component for the majority when it comes to drawing them to scale, so please make sure that you go through all the activity notes about calculating the stair size and drawing them correctly in floor plans and sections. So the first thing we need to do, or what I usually do before start drawing, is to understand and do a little bit of planning of how big the drawing will be on the sheet, so I can start planning the layout and leave enough room for the dimension lines, for titles, for any annotations as needed. To understand how big the plan will be, how big the drawing will be, I look at the scale, so it's 1 to 100, and then I look at some overall dimensions that are here. So this plan says about 10 to 7 meters dimensions. So what I did here is basically just drew that outline of how big the floor plan will be, so I have an idea of how I can start spacing this to also leave enough room for the first floor plan. So I can mark the start of the plan. So what I'm going to do basically is just start transferring some of these dimensions onto floor plan and work out these dimensions as I go. What I start doing is I make a couple of assumptions about the thickness of the wall, exterior and interior, and then just decide on the dimensions along the lines. For the exterior wall, I'm not going to go into detail about how thick it is, but usually between 25 and 30 centimeters. So I'm just going to assume it's 30 centimeters and draw as 3mm wall. For the stairs, I'm just going to copy what's in the plan, in the sketch, and just say I'm going to give it 2 meters allowance. For the kitchen, say 3. Then I'll put some partition walls in between, then the bathroom, and then another exterior wall. So this is basically this part that I just outlined, these walls. Also note that these dimensions are in centimeters. When you dimension, you can decide to adopt a unit that works for you. Most typically what you will see are units in millimeters or meters. I am just very comfortable with centimeters, and for the purpose of understanding the sizes of these components, because the house is very small, I'm just going to stick to centimeters. But whatever you decide to adopt, just be consistent of the measurements you're using. The next thing I'm going to do is just decide how much of this southern part of the house will be sticking out. So I'm just gonna say about 150, and then another exterior wall, and then on the other side as well. And now I have some dimensions. I can start drawing vertical. So I'm just gonna lightly draw with faint outlines the outline and leave the darkest lines for when I am clear about how these components will look like. Also, don't be afraid to have these lines in your drawing. With the line weight, you can control in the end how dark and how visible the important components will be. So these are all my walls that go in this direction. The next thing I'm going to do is just decide the dimensions of the spaces looking this way. So again, going from the exterior wall on this side, so I'm just going to make that again 30 centimeters. Then for the stairs, I calculated on the side, so they will be 250. Then I'm going to have a hallway about 120 centimeters. Then part of the exterior wall that goes in, and then the living room, and then another exterior wall. So I can start drawing the horizontal lines as well. So this will be the stairs, that's the bathroom. This will be the line of the exterior wall. So now I have a very faint outline of what my plan looks like. Before I start making these lines darker, the first thing I'm going to do is just resolve the stairs. If you go back into the lecture notes, when we talk about the standard dimensions of the stairs, before you start drawing, calculate on the side how big the stairs you need, and to understand what and how many steps you need, you will also refer to this information in the section that gives you a bit of indication of what is sort of the expected height of this wall. So I calculated this, and I'm going to have 14 risers by 18 centimeters. So I will have 6 of these steps. So my stairs will be 1 meter run. The landing will be 1 meter as well. One thing to make sure is not to make your landing too small. And then in between I will have 6 steps, and I will make them 25 centimeters, and I will have 6 of those. So now I have all the steps. Again, I'm outlining very lightly because in the final drawing I will not see the entire stairs on the ground floor because we're sectioning at a height of about a meter to 1.5 meters. So I'm just going to make this separation. So now I have the stairs. I'm just going to designate a wall for the bathroom. And now I can start sort of outlining the components. Another thing that I'm going to do actually before I start outlining that, I'm just going to get rid of this excess of lines just to keep things clear. Another thing I'm going to do is also decide where my openings will be in all of these rooms, especially doors in the walls, because those will be the edges of the section wall. So the first thing I'm going to do is just mark where the entrance doors to my house will be. Now exterior doors are usually wider than the interior doors. I'm just going to put these as 1 meter. So these will be lines for the wall. I'm also going to put a window in the kitchen, a window in the bathroom. I'm also going to do a couple of windows I'm just gonna try and make it very So for example, let's say that these are windows in the living room. So now I can start making the walls outline darker. And I'm going to come back later and add any additional level of detail. Right now I'm just outlining So again, this is much easier to do, but you can just slide the ruler on the drawing board. But for the sake of saving time in this demo, I am going to do a bit of improvising. I'm also going to add a bit of a door here for the bathroom. I'm going to come back for the doors later, and I'm going to add a partition wall for the kitchen right here. So this is basically the outline of my ground floor. Next thing I'm going to do is make sure that these stairs are visible to a certain point. So for example, if I'm starting to climb on this end or this end, whichever decide a section for the first floor, that's what I'm going to draw a little cut line. So let's say that that I start here and go up to here. So my stairs were basically going to be cut off in view up to here. So this will be sort of that section line. So I will see the steps on this side. And I'm going to add the arrow just to mark the direction. So this part of the stairs will not be visible on the floor plan. I'm leaving the construction lines, that's fine. The next thing I'm going to do is just add windows as a single line here. I'm going to then add doors. I'll make sure the doors are as big as your opening is. And just do a slightly thick line. Don't give too much thickness to your doors. And then you can either do the swing or you can do a 45-degree. Because I don't have the stencil, I'm just going to do the 45-degree to the door. Same thing here. I should measure this as 70 centimeters, so I'm just gonna, oh, got that right. So I have the doors. I can also add kitchen elements here, so they're about 60 centimeters wide. So I can just add that in slightly less dark but visible line. Usually there will be a sink here, so I can start adding some furniture components. I'm not going to spend too much time on that for this demo. Here I'm just going to make these lines slightly more visible because we see that trimming in the background. I'm just not going to make it as prominent as the section part. And this is basically most of the floor plan done, at least on this level. What is left to do is do dimension lines around the plan. Do also any hatching, if you wish, of the walls. Some of the things you can do to make this easier is to just use the ruler to make it more uniform. If you don't have a steady and comfortable hand to do this. Whichever you do, make sure to do it consistently and make these lines nice and clean. So I can just, forgot to add these lines as well. Or you can leave the walls clean, just make sure that they stand out as drawn, that they're cut. Before I do anything around it, I'm just going to mark the area for the first floor plan, just to show you how to get started. But the first floor plan will basically lie on top of this upper part. So what I can do is just sort of make these lines extended. So referencing where each plan sits is very important, so I can just translate some of these things already. Another useful thing about translating lines is you can also do a much easier job translating your stairs, so you don't have to do the same calculation again. So I'm just going to do this slightly. I should have done this actually after I mark the walls, but just because I'm rushing to go through this, I'm sort of gonna make it very fast. So then what I can do is just mark this wall edge here and do the same thing. So basically just measure the interior dimension and just translate it here to make the outline. And then just do the stairs and the rest of it. So I'm going to stop with the first floor plan here. So based on this information, you can sort of decide what's happening on the first floor. So just decide where the bathroom is and just the rest of it to be the bedroom. After you do all the structural bits, What is left to do is dimension all the aspects that will help you draw the following parts of information. So I'm just going to show in this example for what I would dimension. One thing I would recommend is separating any exterior from interior dimensions. Depending how big your plans are, sometimes you can just add these interior dimensions inside. This is a very relatively small plan, so you can just take all of these outside. So three things that we can do is dimension the interior. So I'm just going to make this as a common dimension between all. The next one can be all the exterior points. Again, this should be all done with the ruler. And then the next one would be the total line. Also, be consistent about tick marks or arrows. Most of the time you will see ticks as a standard. Just make sure to orient them consistently. And then just provide relevant dimensions. Don't forget to do that for all the relevant sides, whatever there are changes. If there are any dimensions that are identical to the other side, you can skip those. So make sure you dimension the ground floor, you dimension the first floor. Don't forget to put the north sign, the labels, and all the other information.